you all that were able to come out again on this Thursday evening. Just honored. And I always say, whether we have 5 people or 100 people, who's supposed to be here this evening are the ones that are supposed to be here to begin the process, pretty much community by community. So I'd like to know from each of you, kind of, how did you get started in doing this work?
So in 2007, I was a competitive cyclist, had already been cycling. I was a kid from South LA that did all the untraditional sports, surfing, skateboarding, motocross. And so as I got older in my late 20s, the idea of like creating opportunities for young black children who look like me to do the sport. And I simply started a small amateur team, got a couple of local businesses to sponsor the team. And as I'm thinking of this idea, it was about making a huge impact because there was nobody that looked like me doing this sport. In fact, there was nobody that looked like me doing the other sports, whether it was surfing or skateboarding or whatever. And I felt comfortable doing it, right? It was like I was hell-bent on being different, and that's what I did. But along that way, I realized the importance of not just what biking looked like or competitive cycling looked like. How can we connect what the safety part looks like? How can we connect more opportunities? How can we challenge the inequity that existed even then, which is still the case, right?
Where the way I see it is, if you boil it down, it's about public space, right? Whether you can live with dignity without cost to your wallet or your body and your pride in public spaces, whether it's biking safely or just being a pedestrian. And I guess for me, growing up, I was always acutely aware of space. So whether growing up Korean American, going to Koreatown where you see a lot of signs in Korean, where you see people who look like you walking in the streets, to, you know, being gay, right? Whether I can be openly myself in public and feel safe. So I end up hanging in other parts of town where there tends to be more gay people. I think all those conversations about existing as your authentic true self with having to change in public space. And I think your documentary hits at the core of that.
My journey, I was basically taking a community organizing class during my master's in public health program. And I was just kind of blown away because I never knew what community organizing was. I didn't even know this was a thing. I got introduced to API FM through an instructor of mine. I asked to intern, and I was first put on their tobacco program. And that's something that I had a lot of experience in. Funding for that grant concluded, so it was time to focus on other programming. We didn't technically have an environmental justice program at the time. It was just basically our clean air program. So over time, our clean air program kind of branched off, and we were able to start another program focusing on water capture, water quality. And from there, it kind of branched off to other areas. And we're like, you know, we should just consolidate all this, because ultimately all of these are linked together. And it's basically environmental justice.
That leads us, I really want to kind of dive into what's happening right now as far as the ICE raids and how it's affecting the work that you're doing.
You know, there's a real fear out there as far as our community. You know, the fear travels with people. And when we're talking about ICE raids, immigration enforcement, like John, I myself am a Korean American. I'm a son of immigrant parents. And as far as where I work here in the SGV, we have a lot of Asian and Pacific Islander families spread throughout. And these are immigrant communities. A lot of them are limited English proficient. So as far as like how they travel, like there's a real fear because they're afraid of potential encounters with ICE agents. They'll end up cutting back on their work hours. As far as what we do in terms of our community outreach, we try to center that with some safety and rights practices.
I mean, I think what's going on with ICE is just earlier what I said earlier is the policing of public space. Who is allowed and not allowed to be outside? I mean, what is the difference between ICE raids and sundown towns? Like, you don't belong here, so stay home and don't come out, regardless of education, job pursuits, family pursuits. So I think it's unfortunate. I mean, there's a lot to be said about this, but one takeaway that I've been thinking about a lot is how much we rely on law enforcement for the execution of social norms. So, for example, if there's a homeless crisis in our subway system, what do? Send cops there, right? If there is someone who gets ticketed because they took a left turn, who do you send? You send a cop. If there's a conflict between two individuals because they hit each other with a car, or there's just some dispute in the neighborhood, who do you call? You call a cop. And so I think as a society, we also have to ask ourselves, like, what are the systems that we're putting in place that make us less rely on someone with a cop or someone top-down authority? Can we put street vendors in the subway station so it's busier? Can we put more street lights on the sidewalks at nighttime so you feel safer?
Yeah, no, we've made a conscious effort to, with our youth community rides, to take back streets, just because, right? And I don't. Well, I'm not gonna say nothing could happen, but we intentionally have decided to do that. But for me personally, it affects me every day. I've been in LA all my life. And it's funny how when you're on a bicycle, you literally see everything. And like, I'm really trying to take care of myself because this is really, really affecting me. To be able to see people being grabbed up off the street, and then you see other people, and we know who we're talking about, they're walking around with their lattes looking at mural, like nobody's bothering them. My focus is youth. And I feel that is a key component to what a part of the future looks like. So I have this running joke, like, look, if you're under 25, you need to get involved. Put your phone down and do something. I'm not gonna ask you what to do, but just do something, right? And that's a part of the teaching and the education that we wanna, in the near future, provide to our kids.
What are your thoughts? Here we are, 2025, in terms of the narratives that we need to hear today and that we need to rise up more, and why? We'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's in our hands. I mean, like, how worse could it get in terms of where we are? And so I follow politics. I believe in democracy from a fundamental standpoint. And I've been talking to a friend about what the midterm represents, like trying to understand what it means. And so, yeah, there's 100 different solutions, right? But that's one that needs to be focused on. I mean, our ancestors, I think, are proud of what we're doing. Like, I think the idea of, like, we've taken up this cause that means something and that would change the city. It would make it safer. It would create dignity, around walking, biking, space, just doing what we do.
I mean, I think, it's easy to be pessimistic, but I think it's also worth knowing that LA Metro is having the biggest expansion of its subway system in its history. We have 3 new stations that open up on the A line. We have the K line connector. We can now get to the freaking airport on our subway, right? So, I mean, I think there's hope that our streets are changing. You have a lot more elected officials who understand the importance of active transportation, non-car transportation. So I think what I would like to see more of is more vision from our elected officials. That's one of the reasons why I ran for office. But I think right now the public is really starving for what a vision looks like.
I too am hopeful for the future, and pretty much like Damon said, he interacts with the youth. I do too for my work, and I firmly believe that our youth are the future, and we need to equip them with the proper knowledge, equip them with the proper tools to be able to carry on the work that we're trying to do, because if we don't, it's gonna stop with us at our generation.
Who are the missing narratives that you think we should bring on board in the work that we're doing?
So I think me working with youth, there's a capacity there for them to learn and be trained, right? Like, as specialists, right? If you want to call it that, to simply advocate for themselves.
No, I mean, Yolandi said exactly what I was going to say, which is senior care. So, like, serving our seniors is something that I've been thinking about more. As I get older, we're all going to get old, right? We're all going to be seniors. So, we're paving the way for ourselves in many ways, making sure. Because you could be a wealthy senior living in the suburbs in the valley, or a low-income senior living in Koreatown. But if you don't have a car or good public transit, good luck. Like getting to your appointments, living your basic life with dignity.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm looking at this too simply, but I would say the folks that we should include are the people who are most impacted by some of the issues in our communities that we're working on. So for us, that would be caregivers, that would be our elders, it would be our immigrant workforce, our limited English proficient residents, and our youth. And by that, I mean, folks who don't necessarily have adequate access to safe crosswalks, to affordable transportation or a car, or even access to bikes, right?
You know, it's a lot happening in LA with the county and city with the Olympics, the Super Bowl, the more expansions with Metro, working on our equity and justice programs. What do you see that we need to focus on now in the days and months to come to make sure that we can really push for this joy and as well as the justice that we're talking about and what we envision?
If you can ride public transit, take public transit. For me, the buses and trains is like the silver bullet for so many of the issues, like suburbanization, gentrification, I mean, traffic and congestion, awful air. That's all rooted in the lack of dignified public transit. So if you can take public transit to work, take it to work. Become a transit rider.
Some of the concerns of catching a bus in South LA or in LA is safety, which is real. Another concern is extreme sanitation, issues. And the third being the bus isn't going where they need to go.
We do this in America where we have to make a case to the government to get anything built.
Yeah.
When oftentimes in other countries, it's like, we want to get more people on the subway system, so we'll just build a better subway system.
Right.
That's how most countries do it. But in America, you have to prove a study to show that there's going to be X number of riders, therefore justifying it. And so it's this backwards approach. So again, I think if you take transit now, you're sort of paving the way for people to invest more money into the system.
So it's organic for me to say I'm working with kids. I like for 2026, if we get this building, the goal is to just get hundreds of kids on bicycles, but at the same time, educate them. So you don't just get a bike, but now you got to do something for your community with the bike, and that is going to be emphasized. So.
Great. Well, we look forward to seeing everything that you guys are going to do. And as I think, as an example, mine is coalition building. Once I latch onto you, then I don't let go. I'm always trying to include, everyone that I'm working with, because it's all of us. As Duke was saying, all of us working together. Duke, you're new to the group now. So thank you so much. Thank you all.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks again for coming out.